without further ado, I'd like to jump into doing some introductions. I know not everyone is here, and I hate to start without everyone, but we don't have an unlimited amount of time. So if you could share your name and your pronouns if you'd like, your school, and then to help you get warmed up with speaking in such a public format. And I know a lot of us aren't doing as much Zooming these days now that many of you are back in school, though not everyone is participating in in-person school. I'd love for you to answer a would you rather question. So name, pronouns, your school, and then would you rather wake up fluent in all languages or wake up able to communicate with all animals? So since you're sitting right next to me on the Zoom screen, I'm going to pass it off to you, Chaz, to get us started with those questions.
All right. Well, hello, my name is Chaz Mills. My pronouns are he, him. I am Sheldon High School's representative. As for the would you rather, I think I would have to go with fluent in all languages. Judy, you're beneath me, so I'm going to call out you.
Great. Sorry, I interrupted earlier. I'm Judy Newman. I'm on the board, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm with you, Chaz. I'd like to be able to wake up and speak lots of languages. So I'm going to go with Carmen, who's right below me.
Carmen, we still can't hear you. I'm not sure what's up because it doesn't look like you're muted. Carmen, do you want to play around with your settings and see if you can figure out what's going on? And in the meantime, we'll move on, and I'll go ahead and I'll call on you, Emily, if you don't mind going next.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Shaver. I'm from Churchill High School, and I use she, her, hers pronouns. And I'm going to have to go with the popular answer and say I would wake up fluent in all languages. Let's see. I'm going to pass it off to Michelle because she is right below me.
Hi, I'm Michelle Shu. I'm a board member. I use she, her pronouns, and I agree because I don't really want to know what my dog is thinking. I'm going to pass it on to Ren.
My name is Ren Washington. My pronouns are she, they. I go to North Eugene High School. I'd like to speak a lot of languages.
Ren, do you want to pick the next person to go?
Melanie Mack.
Thank you.
My name is Melanie Mack. My pronouns are she, her. I attend Churchill, and I would like to wake up fluent in all languages. And I'll pass it to Batafing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Batafing Sumano, and I'm also from Churchill High School. If I could wake up to any language, or yeah, it would probably be language. And my pronouns are she, her, hers.
For those who haven't introduced themselves, do you want to raise your hand so then the people that are calling know who to go with next? Thanks. Batafing, do you want to pick one of the folks with their hands raised? Or we can just do them in order and jump over to Jasmine?
Yeah, I'll go with Jasmine.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Darmati and I am from South Eugene High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I'd love to wake up fluent in all languages. Grant.
Hi, my name is Grant Gamble and I'm the Sheldon representative. I probably want to wake up in all languages. And I'll pass it on to Alicia.
Thanks. I'm Alicia and I'm a board member. And gosh, I'd like to say no here are animals, but I think that would be painful because there's very little you could do about their pain. So who was it that had trouble getting on before? Did we get back to? Sorry, my screen is not big enough to see everybody.
Carmen.
Ooh. Yes, Carmen, you want to give it a shot?
Ah.
I don't even see Carmen now.
I can see Carmen, but I can't hear Carmen. Does anybody have a suggestion for troubleshooting? My only suggestion would be Carmen to maybe exit and then come back into the meeting. Do you want to try that? Okay. Alicia, you want to pick someone else? I think we've got Laurel and Andy left.
Laurel, it's up to you.
Hey, my name is Laurel O'Rourke. I'm a board member, and I think I would want to understand animals. I always feel like I could learn languages, but since we communicate differently than animals, I think that would be a whole nother subset of skills to have. So that'd be cool. Thanks. Andy, go. Muted.
Andy, we can't hear you either. We still can't hear you.
How about now? I thought Carmen and I were connected somehow. Audio waves. Hi, everybody. I'm Andy Dye, and I'm the superintendent. And that's a hard one to pick. I kind of think that I would like to be able to speak to animals, my dog in particular. I'd love to know what they thought about the things that we did as a family, and it would be pretty interesting because I know I'll never speak Spanish as well as my kids do, and so that's kind of a Sisyphean effort. So I'm hoping that Carmen, it looks like you're back. You want to give it a shot?
Okay, Carmen in the chat just said she's going to try to get on through another device. I think that sounds like a good idea, Carmen. I'm sorry you're having these challenges. Maybe stay on this one until you get onto the other one if possible, but we'll keep an eye out for you.
Carmen, our tech is suggesting that there's an arrow by the mute button to click on that and then change your microphone. So I think it's over on the left-hand side where your microphone is.
Still not working? Let's try a different device. I think that's a good idea. All right, sorry about that, Carmen. Okay, well, thank you for sharing. That was I thought we almost were going to have a consensus on the opinions there, and I didn't introduce myself. My name is Maya Rabasa. I'm also a board member. I use she, her pronouns. And I think I'd go with the languages, but that notion of hearing what a dog thinks of the family outings. I have some kids, so I'm not sure I actually want to hear what another member of the family thinks, but I also am intrigued. So I'll go, I think I'll lean that way today. I'll go with the animals. So quickly, an overview of the agenda. We don't have the longest amount of time today, so one thing we want to make sure we do is do an overview of what a meeting looks like. So we'll share an agenda with you and walk through it so you have an idea of what it looks like when you're in a school board meeting. And then I'll pass it off to Michelle, who's going to talk about what it means to be a board rep and why your role is so important. And then we'll have some time for a question and answer period as well. I do want to emphasize a couple of things. At board meetings, you are always welcome to stay for the entire meeting, always. But we know how busy you all are and also want you to know that it's okay to leave before the meeting ends. And a great transition point is to leave after all the stakeholder comments have wrapped up. So at the beginning of the meeting, you'll see when I walk you through the agenda, we hear from the superintendent, we hear from you, community members, board members, and then there's a transition before we start taking care of business. And that's a great time to leave. You don't necessarily have to announce your departure. You can if you want, but you can also just log out, or if we're in person, pack up your stuff and go. We understand. I am going to, if I can share my screen, I'm going to share today's agenda with you so that when you are over there with us, however long you stay, you have an idea of what is going on. Let me find it first so that I don't, there we go. I'm going to try not to show everything on my screen here. How does that look for you all? Can you see the agenda? Yeah. Grant, you are more than welcome to leave your hand up, but I just want to make sure that I'm not overlooking if you have a question or whatnot. So if you do have a question, keep your hand up, and if not, then I'll have an idea. And if folks could help me keep an eye on the idea of if people are raising their hands, because I can only see a few of us at a time. So if you can see today's agenda here, what you'll notice, first of all, at the latest by Friday, the week before our school board meetings, you will receive a copy of the agenda, including an agenda packet. So what I'm looking at here is the packet, not just the simple agenda. And what the packet is it's the agenda plus all the supplementary information for the agenda items. That's why it says it's 25 pages long. The actual agenda itself is just this first part here. So you'll notice there's some preliminary information here about the notice, which is what Eliza puts out to the community to let people know what time and how to attend the meeting. There's also a request form for the community members who'd like to sign up, and the deadline for that signing up. Then we jump down and we see the actual agenda. We start today, as you can see, at 5:45 with a work session to begin our onboarding of you all. And then at 7 is what we call the regular board meeting. Regular board meeting means that it was scheduled at the beginning of the year when we agreed upon our schedule. If we add a board meeting, it will be referred to either as a special board meeting or an emergency board meeting, depending upon the topic. But regular means that it's the one that's been on the schedule and on the calendar since I believe we voted on it either in the end of June or else in August. Chaz?
I just wanted to clarify, for in the future, are we also expected to come to the work sessions before the initial meeting, or are we just expected to come to the regular board meeting?
It's a great question. If you are expected to come to the work session, we will make that explicitly clear, but you are always welcome to come to the work sessions. The work sessions tend to be time when we get information about a topic and we dive deeper, but you are not expected unless we explicitly let you know that we really want you to attend that particular work session. Okay. Yeah, if anybody else has questions, please feel free to throw up your hand. So after, the first thing that happens with the meeting is we call to order. That's just saying the meeting is now in session. We do a roll call where we go through who is in attendance, and that's for the board members. I believe we also include the student board members as well in that roll call. We haven't had any student board members this year, so that hasn't happened yet, but we will do that. Superintendent Dye leads us through the flag salute, and then we do a land acknowledgement. After that is when we really jump into the meat of the agenda. We start with an agenda review where school board members have a chance to request an amendment to the agenda, an addition to the agenda. Sometimes it's moving topics around for different reasons. So that happens first. After that, when we agree on the agenda, we move into an introduction of guests and the superintendent's report. That's when Superintendent Dye gives a statement about the ongoings of the district within the last few weeks since the prior meeting, makes any special announcements or observations. And from there, we move on. This is great that we're going over this. This here says comments by board chair. That was the practice for a long time, that the board chair's comments would be separate from the rest of the board, but we have actually shifted that, and the board chair now makes their comments alongside the rest of the board. So item 6 on this agenda is not how the agenda flows typically. So to be like formal and accurate at the beginning of this agenda, we'll strike that item. So that's part of the reviewing the agenda. From there, we go to you all, and that's when you will be sharing your reports as high school representatives. Today, you are, of course, not expected to make a report because we haven't talked to you about what your reports will be looking like, and we will. But you are, we would love for you today to introduce yourselves. You don't have to answer the would you rather, but otherwise, if you answered and shared what school you attend and what your name is, and you can share what year you are if you'd like, and your pronouns as well. Those are suggestions for things that you could offer to share. But at minimum, please just speak up and share your name with us, partly so then as board members, we all learn how to pronounce your names. Everyone has, it would be very nice for us all to learn your names and the pronunciation so that we jump right into honoring your names. From there, after the school board representatives share their reports, we have items raised by the audience. We have a limit of 10 audience members who can sign up. They get a total of 3 minutes tops. They can't pass their time on to the next person. So if they don't use their time, we just move on to the next person. They have to apply or submit an intention to speak by 5 p.m. on the Monday before the school board meeting that week. And typically, this year, I should say, we have had between 3 and 6 audience members speak up, but there are times in the past where there's a hot topic item and we get quite a bit more. But if you're thinking about the school board meeting and timing, I would say that you would expect between 3 and 6 audience members to be speaking. From there, we hear from employee groups. Employee groups are the groups that represent our different employees. So we have licensed staff, and they are represented by the Eugene Education Association. And licensed staff refers to classroom teachers, teachers on special assignment, counselors are licensed staff. And that's not a limit of who's licensed staff, but that's largely who, as students, you would likely have interacted with. Andy, if I'm leaving out a big group, please let me know. Okay, so think teachers and think counselors for the most part in this category. As well, when I say teachers, I also mean like what we call specials, right? Whether it's PE or speech and language pathologists. So not just a classroom teacher, but teachers who instruct you in different capacities. The other employee group is representing our classified staff, And classified staff are folks who drive our buses, cook in our kitchens, who offer support as education assistants. They're the people who take care of our grounds, either as grounds crew or as custodians. This is the category that has a much broader reach of job titles than the licensed staff does. So people who work in our warehouses, a lot of our technology people, if your computer goes wonky and you need to fix that, it's likely that it's a classified staff member who's going to help you. So that is what we mean when we refer to classified staff. And both of those employee groups are actually unions. The third is not a union, but they represent employees that are in the category, we call them MAPs. So it's managers, administrators, professionals, and supervisors. So think principals, assistant principals, directors. I might be getting that one wrong. Again, Andy, speak up if I'm getting that wrong. This one gets a little tricky, but it's the people who are largely in the positions that I just described. So whether they're managing departments or administrating in the buildings, that's who are in our MAPS department. And I don't know if you want to add to that one, Andy, because that's the one that sometimes gets a little confusing.
No, I think you did a great job.
Okay, great. So we hear from those three employee groups, not every single time, but they're invited to speak with us every single time. From there, we go to those individual board member comments that I mentioned. And all 7 of us have the opportunity to share about our committee work and as well as things that we've done within the district and any sort of statements that we want to share with the community. Then we have something called a consent group. And these are items for action that largely do not have anticipated deliberation or discussion around them. They are largely things that are regularly occurring. So personnel items, like we get a list of these people are retiring and these people have been hired and we have to approve those sorts of things. This time you'll see that it's approving the proposed superintendent goals for the evaluation we give him this year. The reason it's in the consent group is because we've looked at those a few times. The last meeting, there were no questions or discussions around it. So it could be pulled for discussion. Somebody would say, I'd like to pull this, and it would get pulled. Because it's the only one, it wouldn't technically have to be pulled. It could just elicit discussion. Please raise your hand if any of this is confusing. I know it's kind of dry and not super exciting, but it is helpful, hopefully in the long run, when you're learning the flow and the rhythm of how we take care of business. So the next thing is items for information. You'll notice here, it just says items for information and nothing underneath it. This is unusual. We usually have at least one item for information where we just learn about something. Sometimes we're getting the information on that topic because we will eventually be taking action. And sometimes it's just because somebody asked for more information, a board member asked for more information, or our superintendent and the leadership team decided that there's an item that the board would benefit learning more about. From items for information, we go to items for action. Now, these are the things that we do when we vote. So all 3 of these that are coming up, we have seen them before. It's rare, but not unheard of, that we vote on something that we haven't had a first or second reading of. So here, the approved revisions to board policy KL, public complaints. We're in the process of revising our policy about filing formal complaints. We've all seen this quite a few times. It might still elicit discussion and or debate, but tonight is the night that we will take action. That action could be to move it to another date, or it could be to either approve or not approve the revisions. So from there, we go to items for action at a future meeting. That's usually the step that has to happen before something becomes an item for action. So when I say first read or second read, you typically see something here, like we'll use the example of approved board policy GBEA, which is about workplace harassment. And then it says first read here. What is likely to happen if there isn't a tremendous amount of concern or work that we ask to be done to this is that at our next meeting, that'll be found up here under an item for action. So the last thing on our agenda is suggestions by the board for consideration of items at a future meeting. And that's when board members can say, I would like us to add fill in the blank to our next meeting or to a future meeting. If that item gets 2 hand raises from other board members, then that topic is brought to our leadership meeting to make a decision on what to do and where to address that topic, whether it's in a board meeting, a work session, or in what we call the Friday memo, which is a piece of literature that the superintendent generates to give us information. So after here we have on the agenda, just list the meeting calendar so we know when our next meetings are. We don't really typically do anything about that unless we are suggesting or needing to talk about adding an additional meeting, and then we adjourn. So tonight, after we adjourn, if you do choose to stay until the end, which again is your option, we will be having what's called an executive session. Executive sessions are the only thing that you cannot attend. Executive sessions are only attended by board members and the staff members that we need to support the executive session. So sometimes it's simply board members, but usually there's at least a handful of staff members to support the topic. And those could have a range of topics, but those are topics that are exempt from public meetings laws, which means we can talk about them privately and not in public. One regularly occurring every few years topic, for example, is when we do bargaining with our union representation or union groups. We go into executive session to discuss the details of how we intend to approach the bargaining process. So that's an example of something that would not happen in a public meeting. So if you just, I'm not going to scroll through all of it, but if you kept going, and you'll be getting links to these, you'll see that each item, so here's the item for action, the superintendent goals, there's a little blurb about what that is. Sometimes it's a big long blurb. Here's the actual proposed goals. Sometimes it's just a quick note of what it is. So that's why it's 25 pages. Sometimes it's a lot longer than that. But it's the supporting materials for the agenda items. So if you see an agenda item and you're like, oh, that's super interesting, you can see over here, there's page numbers, and that'll tell you where in the packet to go look for that supporting materials. Are there any questions before I stop sharing my screen? I know I just threw a ton at you. I promise that after looking at them a few times, you'll see, because it's always in the same order. So you'll see that, you know, the first half of the meeting is comments and statements. And when I mentioned earlier that there's a really natural moment in the meeting to check out, it would be after this where the comments and committee report. So you'll notice the first chunk is all comments and statements. And then right before we go to the consent group is this natural transition where if you wanted to take off and do so subtly, you could always use that moment, but really it's up to you. All right, I don't see any hands raised, but I can't see everyone. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen so I can see you all. And before we go on, Carmen, can you talk now?
Yeah, I think I can.
Awesome. Will you introduce yourself so we can hear from you?
Hi, my name is Carmen. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a board representative of Sheldon, and I would rather be able to speak every language and be fluent in every language because I think it's cool to learn about languages.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm so happy that we get to hear your voice. So with that, I will pass it off to Michelle, and then we'll come back together after Michelle.
Hello. Today we don't have all of our board members with us, most of them. And each board member has been assigned their student representatives according to school. And I will start with Judy. Ren has been assigned to Judy for EOA. Melanie and Grant have been assigned to Alicia. Parker and Jasmine have been assigned to Maya. Chaz and Carmen have been assigned to Laurel. And Jasmine and Rory, that's me. So whoever's left over, Hope is, I don't see Hope here today, but she has been assigned to Gordon, and Badafing and Emily have been assigned to Kirthi, who unfortunately couldn't make it today as well. But we know who our assignments are, and we will all be reaching out to you, and hopefully we can arrange some meetings. As far as having the 2 representatives. Oh, Chaz, do you have a question?
I do. Can you clarify what like the assignment like means actually?
Because you'll be your main responsibility is to be advising board members. You will have one direct contact. Does that make sense? Feel free to contact any of us. I mean, that's your prerogative, but I think that's what's typically done, and so we're doing it again this year.
Can I jump in really quickly, Michelle? Is that okay?
Yeah, I was going to add that at the meetings, only one rep per school needs to show up. So you can rotate, or you can arrange ahead of time who will be there. And Maya, is there anything else you want to add?
I was going to add just a clarification because I heard, and I appreciate, Grant, that you identified as being from Sheldon High School, but I just want to make sure that Grant, and I'm looking to see who else, and Melanie, that you guys are understanding that we've designated you as the representatives of IHS. So you have a little bit of a more challenging role, because we're going to need for you all to reach out to IHS folks that are not in your physical building. And you can learn more about that. And I see that Alicia is your board partner. And Alicia, if I'm not mistaken, you have experience with IHS as a parent. So you have an understanding of the IHS system that I think will be really helpful with connecting with those two.
Yeah,
Grant,
and Ren as well as the Eugene online representative. If you need any assistance in reaching out to the different schools to fully represent Eugene online, we're here to help.
Grant, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. You said that I would be the IHS representative. I'm not an IHS, so am I still going to be that?
Well, you know what? It sounds like then we need to have a conversation, but you will be a representative because you've been selected. So
Okay.
no,
Yeah,
we
I'm
won't
not
have.
part of the IHS program, so.
Okay, well then we definitely will not have you doing that. And it sounds like that Sheldon will have the distinct pleasure of having a trio, because we don't want to exclude you after including you. And I apologize, I'm not sure how that got, how you got identified as an IHS student, but thank you for speaking up. And Melanie, that leaves you as the only IHS student. So we'll also be in direct touch with you to see if you feel confident to do that solo or if you'd like a partner in that. Thank you, Grant. One thing that I also will add is that we would like you all to be prepared to have a statement ready or a report ready, but not until our meeting in January. One of the things that we asked when we sent out the application was for you all to be prepared to kind of protect your first and third Wednesday nights, because that's when we typically have board meetings. In January, we do not have a January 4th board meeting, but we will be having a committee meeting where we will do a deep dive into compiling and building your reports. So you'll get an email about this, but keep January 4th at 5 p.m. on your calendar. If you need to attend virtually, you can, but our intention is also to hold that meeting in person for those who can attend in person. So that is when we will be jumping deep into what this means. The next this role means, which is, I think partly also maybe what Chaz you were asking is, what does it even mean to be a student board representative? So it does include making a statement, but it like Michelle said, it means that you are a collection of students who are advising the board. So for example, when we jump into talking about your reports, we want to hear about, what's happening at your school. What are kids talking about? Sometimes there's schools where there's a lot of buzz about, we've had moments where people are really talking about mental health, for example, and wanting more support, or people are talking about topics that you all have your thumb on that pulse or your finger on that pulse in a way that we do not. So we want to hear about those things, but we also, for example, would love for you to keep an eye on our agenda and see what's coming up on our agenda, because the way that you can influence our decisions is to know what we are going to be deciding about. So that's just to give you like an insight into that. For example, the complaint process. Students file complaints also. It's not just something that parents or community members do. So being informed by you all into the student perspective on the decisions that we have to make is a big responsibility on your part. Because in our meetings, you have the same right to discussion and debate and deliberation that we have. So when we're talking and we're like, I think this about this, you all can raise your hand and you'll get called on and you can say, the reason I think this is because, and you'll fill in the blank. But the one thing you cannot do is you do not get to vote. So to influence our decision-making, you have to either do that in your report or do that through the deliberation process. I don't know if that answers that question completely, Chaz, and if that gives you all a little bit deeper of an understanding. Additionally, you're going to be receiving a whole collection of documents. These documents will include a list of our regular meetings, and these documents will also include some of the most important policies that you need to know to serve as student board members. They're the policies that impact us as the elected board members as well. There's going to be some guidelines, or not guidelines, suggestions or guidance for formulating those reports. So there's going to be some written materials for you to dig into. And with that written report or those documents, we will also include an email that kind of captures the big points that we made here today, because I know we've been talking at you a whole lot. So I don't expect you all to just kind of have absorbed every last thing and not have some future questions. But in the moment, does anybody else have other questions?
I think it's good that we're going to have a follow-up meeting in January, so we have time to process all of this. And I wanted to give you a heads up that that you will be called to an oath as a student board representative. So be prepared for that. It's short, sweet. I can, if it would open up, I could read it to you.
Yeah, the thing with being sworn in that's going to be slightly awkward, and this is good that you brought it up, Michelle, is we're not going to swear each of you in individually. You get sworn in as a group. So I'll like read a portion of it, like Michelle will pull it up, but at the beginning,
not that long.
Not that long, but I do want to point out that at the beginning, because if you're like me and you're told to repeat, then you actually repeat. But I'm going to say like, I fill in the blank, and you're going to respond with I Chaz, I Jasmine, I Emily. So when I say fill in the blank, that means your name there. So when we all are doing it, it's going to be a moment where it's like, we're not in unison, because it's going to be, Chaz, Melanie, Ren, all these names at once. So it might feel a little awkward, but that's just for the sake of time, because there's a handful of you and it just makes it's easier to just do it in bulk. So I won't read too long of a section at a time, so it'll be easier to repeat back to me as well. And then you're official. Then you are an official representative of the school board. Are there any other questions? Okay, since we have
wondering,
yes, Batafing.
are we doing that today or are we doing that in January?
We are doing that today. We might have to do it twice, because as you can see, the folks who aren't here won't be able to do that. So if you aren't able to stick around for that meeting, we will do another round of it so that you're official. It's an important step to make you official.
Okay, thank you.
But it'll occur, if you remember in the meeting agenda, there was the part where it said reports by student board members. It'll be in that section. So it'll be early on in the meeting if you have to hop off to go do other things. Okay. Well, then I am going to subject you to another would you rather question, so that I can hear from you and get to know a little bit more about you. And maybe this one might elicit more diversity in answers and perspectives, and maybe not. But so this would you rather question. You have been given access to a parcel of land. Would you rather have the skills needed to build your own home and do repairs, or be able to grow all of your own food? And I'm going to go ahead and answer first and then pass it off. I would like to be able to build my own home. I have no clue how to do any of that stuff, and I am fascinated. So that's me, and I'll pass it to you, Emily.
That's a hard one, because I feel like both are great options, but I think I'm also going to have to say I want to build my own home and be able to repair it as well. I'm going to pass it to Carmen.
I think I'd rather be able to plant any plant, because I think it would just be cool to like have a wide variety of different plants and just being like knowledgeable in that aspect. Like, I don't know. I know it takes like a lot of knowledge to like grow trees, especially. So I think it'd be cool to like be knowledgeable in that aspect. And I'm gonna pass it on to Jasmine.
Personally, I'd love to be able to build my own home and like repair it. Mainly because I used to have my own garden, and so I kind of know how to grow, my own food, but yeah, I'd build my own home. Oh, Chaz.
I think I would like to make it a garden. That way I could make it a community garden. Grant?
I think that I'd want to be able to grow like any vegetables and stuff, so then I can have like produce. and then I'll pass it on to Michelle.
That it's a tough question. I would have to go with a garden. And I will pass it on to Melanie.
I would rather be able to grow my own food too. So I'm gonna pass it to Butterfing.
I would rather build my own house and know how to fix when things are broken.
You want to pass it to someone, Butterfing?
Yeah, who hasn't gone yet?
I think Andy has his hand raised, or Judy.
Okay.
Thanks, Butterfing. I would absolutely do the garden. Super important to know, for at least for me, what goes into the food that goes into my body. And I'd have a tiny little bitty house because I'd want to be in the garden most of the time. So that'd be easy to pay for, I think. Thank you. I'll give Judy a shot.
Okay, well, I would absolutely want to build my own house because I have no gardening skills. But I'd also make it, someone said they wanted to do I think it was Chaz, a community garden. I'd make building my house a community effort. And I will pass it to Alicia.
I was pondering what would give me the most independence. So I think you build the house, that takes time up front, but the garden can be year in and year out. So I'll go with the garden, sell the vegetables to pay for the repairs. I got this worked out. Thanks. And did I miss someone? I'm on a small screen too.
Ren?
Did I miss Ren? Okay,
Yeah,
let's
Ren.
go with Ren.
I would love to have all the skills needed to build a home, and it'd be nice to build places for other people too. Who hasn't gone yet?
I think everyone has gone, but I do want to just draw everyone's attention and do an introduction of Eliza, who is really the mastermind behind all things in 4J for the time being, while she's replacing Debbie McKim. But if you get communications, they come from Eliza. She's the person to ask all of your questions to, unless you reach out to a board member. I know you've already received at least one email from her, so you have in your email the ability to email her. And I usually put her on the spot for things like, how do I, somebody needs help with being unmuted. But Eliza, if you're willing, will you answer our would you rather question to close this out?
I would rather have a garden.
Thank you, Eliza. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's no problem. You're welcome. Garden for sure. Hi, everybody.
All right. I think there was a really good balance there. I think that we could create like a community that not only builds structures, but then continues to feed each other, which I like the idea of that metaphor, sharing our skills and sharing our products. But are there any other questions? If there's not, then you all get a 20-minute break because it's 6:40. I suggest grabbing something to drink or eat or whatever your body needs. And then Eliza, are we on the same Zoom link? Do we just close our screens and mute ourselves and stay here? I see Andy nodding. Okay, great. So yeah, if you do leave the screen, you can use the same link to get back in, but to make it easy on yourself, you can just mute yourself and turn off your video, and then come back and we get started promptly at 7. And a big, huge welcome. We are so excited. Like this is maybe one of my favorite parts about being on the board is meeting all of you all and working alongside you and hearing your voices and the window into the 4J experience that like we couldn't possibly even begin to try to replicate without your expertise sharing with us. So welcome, welcome. And you'll probably hear me say that exact same thing again because I feel strongly about it. So see you all in 19, probably 18 and a half minutes now. I'll stop talking.
See you guys soon.